It's 1992. A man is waiting in line to enter the United States. He has a fake Swedish passport. His real name is Ahmed Ajaj. In his bag are 6 blue manuals and 2 videotapes. Meanwhile, another man is in the queue as well. He wears a 3-piece silk suit and carries a British passport, also fake. His real name is Yousef. The two are accomplices. They have traveled all the way from Pakistan to New York to execute a sinister plan. The blue books include mixing formulas for explosives, and on the videotapes are instructional videos for building bombs. Together, they will launch a devastating attack on US soil. This is the often forgotten first attack on the Twin Towers. This video is in part based on the fantastic podcast Operation Trade Bomb, link is in the description. Ahmed Ajaj pulls out his fake Swedish passport. The immigration officer studies the document. He is suspicious. He decides to send Ajaj to a secondary inspection. Officers search his luggage and find the manuals. He gets arrested on the spot. His belongings are seized by the police. Yousef is also sent to secondary screening. He abandons his fake British passport and instead claims to be an Iraqi citizen looking for political asylum. He too gets arrested, in this case for traveling without a visa, but the authorities release him on his own recognizance, meaning he's free to move if he appears to a court date for his asylum grant. As a result, he successfully enters the US. But with Ajaj in jail and the manual seized, Yousef has to execute their plan on his own. How Yousef became radicalized remains a mystery to this day. However, throughout his life, he came into contact with multiple radical Islamists, each likely influencing his extremist beliefs. In New York, he wastes no time and immediately starts preparing the attack. He needs to build a massive bomb. Through a middleman, Yousef exchanges information with Ajaj, who is still sitting in jail. A court has ordered the government to release Ajaj's belongings, including his blue books. It is not clear why authorities would release the plans to build bombs. It was likely a pretty drastic oversight. Yousef sends someone to collect the manuals for him. Now he needs accomplices. He will find them in Jersey. Yousef has a talent for manipulating people. He moves into a dormitory among members of the Islamic community. There he meets Mohammed Salameh, an illegal immigrant from Palestine. Salameh regularly attends a Jersey mosque known for preaching radical Islamist views. Around this mosque, Yousef recruits more people, all bound by a shared hatred towards America and its ally Israel. 3 new members, including a chemist, join his operation. Over the next few weeks, the group gathers the materials and chemicals needed to prepare the bomb. They keep everything hidden in a rented storage unit in Jersey. About 2 months after Yousef's arrival, the group rents a ground floor apartment. In this inconspicuous house, the group begins to assemble the device. The main ingredient is an explosive chemical called urea nitrate. Due to the toxic fumes, they wear surgical masks. The chemicals are very delicate. Over time, the wall paint changes from white to blue. The metal doorknobs start corroding. As detailed in the blue books, they add aluminum powder and other materials to increase the destructive power of the bomb. The apartment is a mess, but of course, you can't tell from the outside. Over months, no one realizes what these men are up to. No curious neighbors. Nobody. It's February 26, 1993. Their work is finally completed. Time for the next step. Carefully, the terrorists carry the parts piece by piece into a yellow van. Even the smallest mistake could cause a devastating explosion. An explosion they hope will cause the Twin Towers to collapse. We can only tackle sensitive topics such as this one thanks to our long-term partners. Brilliant is an incredible platform that helps you get smarter every day. There are thousands of interactive lessons in a variety of different fields like programming, science, and AI. Take the Manhattan skyline. Ever wondered how all those giant buildings were actually engineered? Brilliant science courses help you better understand the world around us and the technology that drives it. Interactive learning is an amazing way to learn new skills. With Brilliant's lessons, you can really deep dive into a topic without ever feeling overwhelmed. It's not only about memorizing, it's about honing your critical thinking skills through creative problem solving. If you want to try everything Brilliant has to offer for free for a full 30 days, check out brilliant.org/fern, click on the link in the description, or scan this QR code right here. Here across the Hudson River, they are standing over 400 meters tall, built from 200,000 tons of steel. They are the heart of the World Trade Center, a complex of 7 buildings in Lower Manhattan. When completed in 1971, they became the tallest structures in the world. The iconic skyscrapers shape the skyline of New York City. They are a symbol of the prosperity and power of the US. Inside, there is a vibrant world of commerce and international relations. It's a city within a city. 19 restaurants, 80 shops, and countless offices housing 430 companies from 29 countries. Every day, around 50,000 people go to work here. One of them is Janine Ali. Janine works as an office manager in finance. Her office is located on the 45th floor of the North Tower. It's lunchtime soon. The yellow van is driving through Manhattan, approaching its target. Inside sit Yousef and one of his accomplices. The van pulls into an underground parking garage of the World Trade Center. It stops in a no parking zone on level B2. The men get out of the vehicle and open the back. The rear compartment holds multiple large barrels, some cardboard boxes, and a long rope. One of the men lights the fuse. A few meters from the van, another car is waiting with another accomplice. Yousef and the other man jump inside. Just before the exit, a truck appears. The men get nervous. A few moments later, the truck finally moves. Tim Lang doesn't want to be here today, but he has to, for a 12:30 meeting on Wall Street. As he steps out of the vehicle and reaches for his jacket, Janine notices that, suddenly, the earth is shaking. Thick black smoke starts spreading through the air vents. What is happening? Slowly but surely, the office is starting to turn into a death trap. Janine and others realize how dangerous the situation is quickly becoming and try to leave. But the elevators aren't working. She leads a colleague down the emergency stairwell. It's pitch black. Lights are out and smoke is filling the air. It's becoming harder and harder to breathe. When Tim gains consciousness, his throat is burning. His head is ringing. He crawls through the debris towards his Toyota. The car is wrecked. His surroundings look like a war zone. Tim pulls his sweater over his nose and tries to find an exit. Still dizzy from the blast, he stays close to the ground. But eventually the smoke becomes too thick. With his last breath, he cries for help. Suddenly, a boot appears in front of Tim's face. He grabs it. Two rescuers lift him up and drag him through the debris until they finally make it outside. Janine and her colleagues slowly make it down the stairs. Together, they count each step out loud to keep themselves from panicking. Then finally, they too reach daylight. As Tim and Janine walk out on the streets, they see smoke, firefighters, and faces covered in soot. They don't know it yet, but they just survived an enormous terrorist attack in the middle of the city. An attack aimed at the heart of America. The armada of police officers and firefighters at the scene evacuate 50,000 people. As the smoke starts to settle, the destruction of the bomb becomes clear. The blast created an enormous crater under the North Tower, a 60-meter deep and 30-meter wide hole going several stories deep. Because of the smoke filling the building, helicopters evacuate people from the rooftop. Ultimately, over 1,000 people are injured, mostly from inhaling toxins. 6 people lose their lives almost immediately, including a pregnant woman and her unborn child.
There was a man still sitting in his car, and you could tell he was dead.
But ultimately, the terrorists' plan failed. They wanted to topple the North Tower with their bomb, causing it to fall into the South Tower. But the explosion did not even come close to causing the tower to collapse. Yet, if the van had been parked closer to the concrete foundations, and the bomb had been even a lot larger, the terrorists might have succeeded. After the attack, Ramzi Yousef is standing across the Hudson River. He's looking at the skyline of New York and is disappointed. The towers are still standing. On the same day, he takes a flight to Pakistan, leaving his co-conspirators behind. Meanwhile, the hunt for the terrorists is on. FBI agents from all over the country fly in to help, and very soon they will make their first arrest. A bomb technician finds evidence in the debris, a twisted piece of metal from a car chassis. They find a vehicle identification number engraved on it. The FBI is able to trace this number back to the original car. It belongs to a Ford Econoline cargo van, registered to a rental company. It has a slightly unusual color, yellow. They quickly uncovered who rented the van: Mohammed Salame. A few hours after the attack, Salame enters the rental company office and walks up to the counter. He knows that the van was blown to pieces, but he needs the deposit money to flee the country. Salame says the van was stolen and requests the $400 deposit. The employee tells him to file a report with the police and come back after that. A couple of days later, Salame actually returns and tries again. Only this time, the employee at the counter is an undercover FBI agent. Salome tries to persuade the employee to refund his deposit. He's nervous, but since the van is missing, he only gets back half. In desperate need of money, Salome takes the $200 and leaves. Just outside the door, an armada of FBI agents and police officers are waiting for him. But Salome is just one guy, and the rest of the group is still out there. On February 27th, the day after the bombing, the New York Times receives a letter. We are the 5th Battalion in the Liberation Army. Declare our responsibility for the explosion on the mentioned building. The letter contains multiple demands to the US. All aid to Israel and any interference in the Middle East should be stopped. The terrorists set an ultimatum. If our demands are not met, all of our functional groups in the Army will continue to execute our missions against the military and civilian targets in and out of the United States. After Salome's arrest, the FBI searches his apartment and finds evidence that links him to the other conspirators. Ultimately, Salome's stupidity pulls the thread that uncovers the entire plot. Ahmed Ajaj finishes his sentence for passport fraud and is released from prison, but on March 9th, he is arrested again. The next day, a SWAT team raids the apartment of another member of the group, the chemist responsible for mixing the explosives. A third terrorist manages to escape to his hometown in Egypt, but local agents manage to capture him. After he confesses participation in the attack, he is extradited to the US, where he is taken into custody. All 4 co-conspirators are found guilty. They are sentenced to 240 years in prison. But one man is still missing, the mastermind behind the attack. In the summer of 1994, Yousef travels to the Philippines under a new name. This is the start of the so-called Bojinka plot. Bombs are to be placed aboard 12 planes bound to the US. The plan is being funded by supposed allies of the notorious Osama bin Laden. Global terrorism is reaching a new dimension. Yousef's plan is set to work in 2 stages. His conspirators board the chosen flight, plant the bombs underneath their seats, and get out at the first leg of the trip. A timer will detonate the bombs during the second flight. To ensure the airline bombs function as intended, Yousef assembles small explosives and conducts a series of test attacks. One bomb detonates in a movie theater in Manila, injuring several people. Another is planted underneath the passenger seat of an airplane. It explodes en route to Japan, killing a Japanese man. Yousef, on a relentless killing spree, plans to also assassinate Pope John Paul II during a scheduled visit to Manila. In January 1995, just 2 weeks before the group wanted to execute the Bojinka plot, something goes wrong while building one of the bombs. Concerned neighbors call the fire department. The police searches the apartment and uncovers stunning evidence: blueprints for the airline bombing plot and the plans for the assassination of the Pope. Evidence included a Bible, crucifixes, and priest clothing, all part of a disguise to be worn by a suicide bomber. Ultimately, Yousef's plans fail, yet he manages to escape, again, this time to Pakistan. About 1 month later, a student he had attempted to recruit betrays him to the authorities in Islamabad. Ramzi Yousef is captured at last. Federal agents transport him back to the US. In January 1998, he is sentenced to life in prison, plus an additional 240 years. In March 1993, the South Tower reopens, followed by the North Tower 2 weeks later. Janine Ali, Tim Lang, and thousands of others go on with their lives and return to work in the World Trade Center. While Ramzi Yousef spends his days in a prison cell, his uncle Khalid Sheikh Mohammed is involved in planning a different attack.